is causing anxiety and how people are expected to follow predictable life paths. In this case, it follows a couple that is expecting to find a house to live in, and then the company who owns the house traps the couple there and makes the predictable life a reality and a dystopian nightmare. The context for The Bothersome Man is that it is set as another afterlife, and the protagonist, Andreas Ramsfeld, is introduced to a dystopian life where it is set up in the future. The settings are very dystopian, ranging from an office setting to a tundra setting. The films I will be comparing today is the film Vivarium and The Bothersome Man. Both these films fall under the genre and style of dystopian. In Vivarium, the atmosphere turns very dull and lifeless, and the same goes for the film The Bothersome Man. The question which I will be analyzing the films on is how do dystopian films use the environment to reflect the psychological effects of societal conformity. In the films Vivarium, The Bothersome Man, the directors employ dystopian elements to create an environment which reflects the psychological effects of societal conformity that is present in society. To start, in both of the films, the mise-en-scène is very monotone and minimalistic. There is a filter and a palette of very neutral and gray tones of color. The color represents how plain and boring the surroundings are. In The Bothersome Man, the palette is mostly gray and there is little to no color. The amount of color shows the invoking sense of oppressive conformity. The emotional desolation and societal decay, the muted color palette expresses that there is a loss of individuality and spirit in the world and characters. In The Bothersome Man, the characters act like they are being oppressed. For example, when the protagonist, Andreas, talks about the world around them or asks a question not related to work, or the other characters acts like they heard nothing. The characters around him are motionless and act like robots. This creates a dystopian type of atmosphere, and the main character is depressed and loses his sanity, which leads him to killing himself. The dystopian atmosphere makes for the character having a mental breakdown, and this represents how some people feel out of place and how depressed they can feel when there are pressures to conforming to society's expectations. This is even shown when the main character comes back to life and he is replaced immediately by a clone of him that is acting like everyone else. Alternatively, in Vivarium, there are no characters in the film, and being alone made the characters go crazy mentally. There is a large neighborhood, and they cannot escape or call for help. They are trapped. This element can be represented how alone people can feel in a society due to its pressures on conforming to it. All the houses can represent, even though the characters are surrounded by a plethora of houses, they are still alone. They are not alone physically but mentally, which represents how some people have problems with fears with conforming to society. The houses create a dystopian feeling with how there are so many empty houses and there is no one else inside. In the end, the characters feel empty and feel like giving up on life. The Bothersome Man, there is a person who commits suicide, and it foreshadows and it gives a bad omen is what to come. It foreshadows because Andreas ends up committing suicide as well. In Vivarium, Tom, the male protagonist, starts to dig, and he ends up finding a dead body in a bag in front of the yard of the house. This is also foreshadowing, and it represents how the characters will end up, and it gives them even less hope that they will find a way out. The dead bodies from both the films tell the story of the past characters and the main characters are going to experience. It conveys that the end and depression is going to get them eventually. And the film Vivarium has the same houses over and over again, and this would be described as cookie cutter houses. These houses are identical and they all have the same color. And They all have the same design and layout. The dystopian creepy houses drive the characters insane, with the factors of being completely alone besides the two main characters having each other. These factors make the characters feel alone when they are trying to escape but end up at the same house, and it makes them lose hope, as well as the bothersome man. The main character also tries to escape, but he is met with an empty desert. Both of the main characters lose hope and end up in a downward spiral of a mental breakdown. They do not conform to society they are forced into, and it represents how in real life some people don't want to conform to society and desire to detach from society. The mise en scène makes the characters from both films feel depressed and oppressed because of how dull and minimalistic the environment is. The depressed and oppressed feeling from the characters portrays a depressive mood. The screenwriting of the forced situation that is presented for Vivarium and the bothersome man are to be in a predicted and or set up life. In Vivarium, the couple are forced into life where they have everything set up for them, and the neighborhood is a classic suburban life. As well as the bothersome man, the protagonist is forced to a dystopian life in the city with an apartment and a wife, which is a classic city life. But both worlds are lifeless and there is no uniqueness, and everything is bland because these worlds are lacking color and emotion. In the end, the dystopian world is created in these films contributes to how the message behind the world is perceived. The mise en scène, the forced situation, and the atmosphere creates a dystopian world that has a message towards the audience of how the psychological effects are caused by conforming to society.